morning. This is VK3SL. And we're here again Friday nights, test transmission on 160 metres and also 2 metres streaming online. And I'm very happy to introduce and say a warm hello to Mr. Frank, who's with us live tonight for our tests. Hi, Frank.
Hello, Steve. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. It's really good. This is something we've been working at for a very long time. It's at last it's happened. You're here in person, which is fantastic. And the great news is you've got a playlist. I don't have to worry. I can sit back and enjoy your selections.
Bit of a week off, eh?
I think so. Yes, that's wonderful. So I should say this is VK3SL and VK3JR.
Indeed.
Yeah,
indeed.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got to get that
conducting
right.
A test transmission.
Absolutely. That is something we have to be very definite about, isn't it?
I've designed this playlist especially to be good test music.
Of course.
Haven't worried much about entertainment, but it's
never.
Perfect for testing.
No, exactly. There's no question of entertainment. No. Mind you, if you do listen on the stream, well... Yeah.
Well, it's probably more entertaining on the stream.
Perhaps it would. Right.
All right, shall we start?
We can. Now, what have we got to start?
Well, I thought we'd start with a number in the rhythm and blues genre by Ray Charles. A bit of a Ray Charles fan, and he is a great exponent of rhythm and blues. Rhythm and blues is something that grew out of the blues, obviously. It's very much black music.
Yeah.
Really 40s and 50s, and it really grew out of music, records that were played on stations that were just really designed for coloured people to listen to initially, and in fact they were called race records, and gradually some young white people got to hear these broadcasts late at night, and they said, this music's not too bad at all. It is by way of being a sort of a combination of blues and a bit of gospel.
Sure.
And as I say, it's got a pretty solid rhythmic component as well. But there's no better exponent than Ray. And he's going to play The Night Time Is the Right Time, and he's going to do it with the help of his girly group, the Raylettes.
Fantastic. Look forward to it. Here we go. Mr. Ray Charles.
I wanna be the one I love now.
Right, that was super hype energy. Whoa, there we go. That's the YouTube doing funny things.
Yeah, he gave it all he had, didn't he?
He certainly did. That's incredible. Amazing energy. He's sort of primed.
It was very rhythm and blues was very important historically because it helped to spawn rock music, and it kind of morphed into what later became soul.
Right, okay. And gospel.
Gospel and soul, and people like Aretha Franklin.
Yep.
And the staple singers.
Yeah, so did rhythm and blues come first, did it?
Yeah, it came before. The rhythm and blues was 40s and 50s.
Okay.
And it kept on going. I mean, there's still people doing rhythm and blues, but it's not the pure thing that it used to be.
What's rockabilly?
Rockabilly is rock music which has a country
influence. Okay, it's more of a country influence, isn't it?
Yeah. It's Elvis used to sing rockabilly type music.
Sure.
And it is a very early days.
Yeah, I mean, it's so earthy. I love it seems to have that sort of, there's a particular rhythm or a pace to rhythm and blues music.
I think so.
So it draws its inspiration, of course, from the blues.
That's it. That's not far from the surface, the blues.
Yeah, very much
always.
So. Yeah. So who's sort of doing rhythm and blues today?
Well, it's hard to, people like... Janis Joplin used to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know of any sort of big-time rhythm and blues people. As I say, they became soul singers.
Yeah.
And you had people like Aretha Franklin was the shining example of that. And, and as I say, it cross-fertilised gospel as well.
Yeah. You said you saw Ray Charles.
I did. I had a wonderful evening at the Music Bowl, believe it, not my usual venue to go to, but it worked very well. It was
the atmosphere?
A lovely night.
Yep.
And
did he have a big group? Was it sort of a?
No, he had a band. He didn't have a vocal group at all.
Okay, it's just on his own with the band.
He had great energy for considering that he only lasted another year.
Okay, it's not long before he tuttled.
No, that he did. He tuttled a year later.
Okay,
and. He was excellent. Went through his old repertoire, all the old favourites, and he was on for about an hour and a half.
Oh, amazing!
It was amazing. I was so glad to have caught him.
Yeah, you're lucky to have heard him. He's such a luminary, Mr. Charles.
Well, he is.
Mr. Ray Charles.
Mr. Ray Charles,
and a great father by all accounts.
He's a family man. He had several families going at once. 31 children.
Wow, that must be a record. I thought Bach had 21 was but I think Mr. Charles had quite. Yes, you say concurrent families.
I think Ray heard about Bach and said, "I can do better than that."
I think he might.
And indeed, he did.
He did. Yeah. All right, that was good. I really haven't listened to much Ray Charles. What other songs of? What else should I be?
Of Ray, he tried a number of genres and became very commercial. Unfortunately,
it's always the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, the record label got hold of him, and he did a sort of a country album, and but the real Ray Charles is mainly in his early stuff. But he's also a very good player of keyboard and organ or keyboard piano.
Yeah, I associate him playing the what they call that organ. It's not an organ as such, but it's a
electric piano.
Yeah, electric piano.
Yeah. The Rhodes.
The Rhodes. There's a particular sound, isn't it?
It is very much a particular. I love it. Yeah, he played. He's pretty good. And I heard that he also learnt the sax.
Really?
Learnt the tenor sax. Didn't play it very much, but there are recordings of him doing that.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Oh, good stuff.
Seminal figure, no doubt.
Yay. Good. All right. I think we're put some Bix on the go.
Time for Bix. It's always time for Bix.
Yes. Well, we're always talking about Bix, aren't we, in our post-missions discussions.
That's
This is
right.
good. We're bringing our discussion forward, and it sort of makes it a little bit more poignant, really, when we're able to actually play the things as we're talking about
I think
them.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is 1924 Bix.
Yeah.
Which is early.
Early, very early. In fact, he was only about 21 when he made these records in 24.
Which sounds very early, but when you think of the fact that how short his life was.
Yeah, 28 he tuttled. 20.
Yeah, he did. And he's playing here with his early band called the Wolverines.
Yeah, he is. And the band, who else was in the band? Had
Were there any
the others sort of didn't really have much. No, they're not names that you'd know.
No.
And I think George Bruni's was the only person who sort of made it a little bit afterwards.
Okay.
And he's the trombonist. But now with the Wolverines, they were his first recordings. Yeah, he started with them.
I didn't know that.
And then he moved on to Goldket's band in late 24. But I can give a bit of biographical stuff because some people may not know the full thing about Bix.
That's right.
There's a record cover here with some good biographical stuff. It says Mr. Beiderbecke was obviously the sort of person whom legends insist upon growing. Well, we all know that. He lived for only 28 years and his career actually spanned less than a decade. And we have a tremendous influence on all the musicians who heard him. And it goes on and on. Louis Armstrong, Red Nichols. In fact, I think there's a lot of cross-pollination between Mr. Armstrong and Bix. They both sort of rallied each other a bit.
Yeah.
And then it talks about him with the Whiteman Band and Goldket Band, where he sort of stayed. And he had lots of small groups when he was with Whiteman. And it says the basic facts of his life can be readily be stated. And he tells you he came from a well-to-do family, musically inclined family, and studied the piano a bit. Soon switched to cornet, but probably never took a lesson on the instrument. Certainly didn't, because he had a very unorthodox way of playing.
Yeah.
By the time he entered the school, like Lake Forest Academy School in 21, he would seem to have discovered jazz and to be set on following it. And soon left school to become a part of a young band called the Wolverines. So he sort of dropped out of school.
Yeah.
And I think his parents were pretty unhappy about that.
I think they might have been.
I don't think they were too happy about him not going to school, because he came from a family with sort of high academic expectations.
Sure.
I think he always felt that he let them down. I think there's that sad story that he used to send, every time he made had a hit, he'd send the records back home, and then they found it after he'd passed away that the family never listened to any of them.
It's a heartbreak, isn't it, really?
It is sad. Yeah, but it goes on, talks about his association with Whiteman, and what else does it say? It doesn't say a lot else about this. But look, it just gives, you get the idea. The young guy, he's drops out of school, has this incredible talent, amazing musical ear, and is effectively self-taught.
And so much recognised by his peers at the time.
Instantly.
Yeah,
he became a legend literally overnight.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing about Bix is that he absorbed a lot of the influences, particularly the more influences from more sophisticated music, and including the French Impressionists. And obviously, coming from the family he probably was exposed to art music, and that sort of influenced him quite significantly.
That's very prominent in his piano playing as well.
It is, very much so, and his compositions. He
Indeed.
wrote quite a few. And so let's have a recording from the Wolverines, and we'll hear early Bix. And this is via your LP, Frank, so thanks for bringing this in. And we'll hear a track called Big Boy. And this features Bix on cornet and also on piano.
Yeah.
So you'll hear him play both. So he does a fantastic piano solo. And listen to the cluster chords in the solo. They're full of harmonic intrigue. They're wonderful. And then after he's done the piano solo, you hear there's a moment where you can hear him pick up the cornet and then join in the chorus again. So you get that sort of situational thing as well. All right, let's give it a whirl. VK3SL and VK3JR. Not entertaining you. there we have it. That was Bix Beiderbecke and his and the Wolverines from 1924. Let's keep it rolling, hey?
Hey, why not?
Why not? We'll have a listen to the next track, which is Tijuana.
Way to go.
Right, there we have it. That was Bix and the Wolverines from 1924 with Tijuana, and we're just talking about that. It's one of those recordings where he took phenomenal risks, and they didn't quite work, but it did. The fact that it didn't work, well, it sort of did work, but yeah, it's asymmetric. His solos.
You could see the idea behind it, couldn't you?
Very much so. Yes, yes. There was you could see he was really trying to sort of twist the symmetry and the regularity of the piece, and trying to sort of cajole it or something.
It still didn't sound unmusical, even not working.
Exactly. I mean, it sort of worked, but it was just it was strange.
It wasn't quite what he'd hoped, I think.
Maybe in one sense, but in another sense, it's
maybe he knew exactly what he was doing.
Maybe he did. Maybe he's just trying out new ideas. But the great thing is that he tried them out in the studio, and they released the records, and we have this new, whole new generation of approach to playing syncopated music, which is the intrigue of the 20s, I think.
Certainly was.
Yay. So thanks for that. Thank you for bringing in some Bix. You know how addicted to Bix I am.
Well, I couldn't leave him home once I realised that I had this. I've had this vinyl a long time. Without realising that I had it. I'd forgotten about it, actually.
Okay. Do you remember getting it?
I remember I bought it at an auction rooms.
Oh, right, okay.
In a sort of job lot.
Sure. Okay, it's on a specialty boutique label.
Is it? Yes.
Yeah, it's a nice compilation. It's got all the recordings he made with the Wolverines.
Oh, wow. It's not a bad transfer, is it?
That's good. Yeah, nice and clear. Yay. So, I don't know, what else? What's next? I'll have to have a look at this playlist here.
We're going to the stage now.
Oh, good.
Which we haven't done too often. And
well, actually, I don't really play much stage music, so this is a new thing.
Bit of a new thing, yes. Well, why not?
Absolutely.
And it is West Side Story, composed by Leonard Bernstein. At least the music was. The lyrics, interestingly, were written by a very young Stephen Sondheim.
Okay.
And the lyrics are brilliant. It's one of the reasons I'm playing what I'm playing from there. West Side Story was the saga of two gangs on the New York streets at war with each other, really. There was the Sharks were Puerto Ricans, fresh from Puerto Rico, and the Jets, the other mob, they were locals, and they didn't like each other. And within that environment was told something like the story of Romeo and Juliet, of a love that was fated to go wrong. And in the course of telling that, Bernstein wrote some lovely music and sometimes some brilliant lyrics. The first one we're going to play is a song that was sung by members of the Sharks when they were hanging out together. They were talking about how good or not good it was to have come to America. And some of them were seeing the good things about it, and others were saying, hang on, it's not all that good. There's quite a lot of not good. And that's what the song's all about. And it's picked up with what I think is a brilliant lyric.
That's great, Frank. Okay, we'll go with that. And I have to lean over because the CD player's in a slightly different spot. But thank you. That's a good... Look, I didn't really know the story of West Side Story, so let's put things into context.
Sure.
Because I've heard the song before, but not the background to it. So
one of the things I love about this is the rhythm, the incredible Puerto Rican or sort of Latin rhythm that goes right through it and beautifully done.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's choreographed accordingly. There's a marvellous dance routine, apparently.
Was that Mr. Fosse who did that?
Yeah, I think it was.
Bob Fosse?
I think it might have been, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, let's have a listen.
The people in each room. Automobile in America, chromium steel in America, wires for wheel in America, very big deal in America. I'll drive a Buick to San Juan. If there's a road you can drive on, I'll give my cousins a free ride. How you get all of them inside? Immigrant goes to America, many hellos in America, nobody knows in America, Puerto Rico's in America. I like the shores of America. Comfort is yours in America. Knobs on the doors in America. Wall-to-wall roads in America. When I will go back to San Juan. When you will shut up and get gone. Everyone there will get big cheer. Everyone there would have moved here. Es verdad.
Okay, that was America.
Great energy.
Fantastic energy, amazing rhythm. Yeah, Bernstein was one of a kind.
Certainly was.
Yeah, he mastered his genre. He knew the orchestra backwards and was able to just imbue everything with that energy and yeah, beautiful orchestration, of course.
That was his most successful show.
I think it was.
Candide, some people think was better, but I think they're both great.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be fun to play in. That I was trying to work out what the meter is. 1 2 3 1 2
Yes.
3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. So yes, it's a nice, again, another asymmetrical rhythm.
It is. The choreography to that is apparently amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen film of them.
Yeah.
They all sort of click their fingers and lay low, and there's this sort of
everything's rhythmic, you know.
Yeah, totally. No, it's good. And I didn't know the story behind it, so it sort of makes more sense getting a bit of background. Now,
Yeah.
you've got another one. From the same show.
This is another aspect of the plot, in that this is a song about Officer Krupke, Officer Krupke. Sergeant Krupke is the poor cop who's got to try and keep these gangs apart, and of course one of the things he does and says is that he keeps telling these young overcharged guys what's wrong with them and what they need to do to come into line. And the Jets, after one of their meetings, decide that they'll have a little charade directed at Officer Krupke. Just talking about imagining that he's talking to them and how they deal with him, and just sort of portraying all sorts of different scenarios about what's allegedly wrong with them, what he says is wrong with them, and the magic in this song to me is the lyric. It's just a brilliant lyric.
Sounds good. I'm having trouble with the CD player, I'm sorry to say.
Ah, okay.
But we do have a contingency.
We do?
Oh, here we go. Wait, keep riffing because I'm going to try and get this going.
Okay. Yeah, and it's just a brilliant lyric. It describes all of the allegations that are made about these kids and how they're they're social misfits and they're socially sick, and need all sorts of help, and they just deal with that.
Okay, that sounds good. Now I'm afraid we'll have to resort to the secondary thing.
Okay, Plan B?
The Plan B, only because I think the CD likes the first few tracks only.
Ah, okay.
And this is track 14.
It is.
So this is it. And this is all modulated sound, of course, everyone. We're not, there's no entertainment intended whatsoever. We are testing on 160 and 2 meters, streaming online. And you can listen on the stream. That's certainly, you're allowed to enjoy the music if you listen on stream. All right, so let's hear G Officer Kropke on the version 2, I think. We'll give it a go.
Okay.
VK3SL and VK3JR testing.
Me, Officer Krupke? Yeah, you! Give me one good reason for not dragging you down to the station house, you punk!
Dear kindly Sergeant Krupke, you gotta understand, it's just our bringing upkeep that gets us out of hand. Our mothers all are junkies, our fathers all are drunks. Golly Moses, naturally we're punks. Gee, Officer Krupke, we're very upset. We never had the love that every child ought to get. We ain't no delinquents, we're misunderstood. Deep down inside us there is good. There is good, there is good, there is good, there is untapped good. Like inside, the worst of us is good.
That's a touching good story! Let me tell it to the world! Just tell it to the judge!
Dear kindly Judge, Your Honor, my parents treat me rough with all their marijuana. They won't give me a puff. They didn't want to have me, but somehow I was had. Leap on lizards, that's why I'm so bad.
Right, Officer Krupke, you're really a square. This boy don't need a judge, he needs an analyst's care. It's just his neurosis that ought to be coined. He's psychologically disturbed.
I'm disturbed. We're disturbed. We're disturbed. We're the most disturbed. Like we're psychologically disturbed.
Hey! In the opinion of this court, this child is depraved on account he ain't had a normal home.
Hey, I'm depraved on account I'm deprived!
So take him to a head shrinker. You!
Who, me?
My daddy beats my mommy clobbers me. My grandpa is a commie, my grandma pushes tea. My sister wears a mustache, my brother wears a dress. Goodness gracious, that's why I'm a mess.
Yes, Officer Krupke, he shouldn't be here. This boy don't need a couch, he needs a useful career. Society's played him a terrible trick. Unsociologically, he's sick.
I am sick. We are sick. We are sick. We are sick, sick, sick. Like we're sociologically sick.
In my opinion, this child does not need to have his head shrunk at all. Juvenile delinquency is purely a social disease. Hey, I got a social disease. So take him to a social worker.
Which way?
That way.
Dear kindly social worker, they tell me get a job, like be a soda jerker, which means like be a slob. It's not I'm antisocial, I'm only anti-work. Glory, Oski, that's why I'm a jerk.
Officer Krupke, you've done it again! This boy don't need a job, he needs a year in the pen! It ain't just a question of misunderstood. Deep down inside him, he's no good!
I'm no good! We're no good! We're no good! We're no good! We good! Like the best of us is no that good!
The trouble is he's lazy.
The trouble is he drinks!
The trouble is he's crazy.
The trouble is he stinks!
The trouble is he's growing!
The trouble is he's grown.
Krupke, we've got troubles of our own. Officer Krupke, we're down on our knees. 'Cause no one wants a fella with a social disease. Officer Krupke, what are we to do? Chief Officer Krupke, Krupp you!
Right.
There, it says it all, doesn't it?
It does. It's that probably fits into our slightly politically incorrect class of transmission.
It's on the border, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's some pretty racy themes there.
I think so.
Yes, looking at the society misfits, and so it's interesting, isn't it? That was the first time that the mainstream media really sort of identified with slightly more complex and shadowy themes.
It certainly was. It was back in the late-ish 50s, 57, 58.
Yeah.
And it was risky at the time.
Sure, and I think it's something that probably an important outlet for Mr. Bernstein.
He lapped it up.
He would have loved it. He
yeah.
would love to be the trailblazer with doing that stuff.
And I don't think Stephen Sondheim let him down with the lyrics.
Sounds like, it's great. Well, that's good. I usually listen to musicals, so that was a sort of a bit of novelty.
Okay.
Yay. So what's next? So we got what have we got? Mr. Mulligan and Mr. Desmond.
A couple of sax players.
Yeah.
Playing, improvising together. One of the things that makes this stand out for me, unlike other jazz records where you would have a soloist perhaps improvising over a backing, the whole of this CD is two people, Paul Desmond on alto and Jerry Mulligan on baritone, improvising together, and neither of them is superior to the other. They're just improvising together and picking up stuff from each other, and it's one of the best examples I know in jazz of improvised counterpoint.
That sounds excellent. Now, this is Graham. Here we go. It looks like it's going to work. So I think we'll just go with it while it's going, and we'll improvise in our own way.
Here we go. Okay.
Wow, that's pretty impressive playing, isn't it?
It is. I did enjoy that. Now, I misled the listener slightly because they did, in fact, do solos separately, but most of the album, they don't. And even when they're soloing, they sound pretty darn good.
They do. They're very matched.
Totally. They are in tune with each other.
Yeah, it seems to be in sync. They've got the same sort of phrase structures and stuff, don't they?
Yeah, they're similar type players.
Yeah, very much so.
And are very well chosen by whoever got the thing together.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's interesting. I've heard of Jerry Mulligan. I don't know much about Paul Desmond.
Paul Desmond was the sax player in the Dave Brubeck quartet.
Oh, okay. Okay,
that
very good.
That brought him to fame.
Yeah, yeah.
And he won Downbeat Awards year after year whilst he was with Brubeck.
Right.
And this is obviously well after his Brubeck days.
Yeah, sure.
But he still sounds just as good, and he's got this lovely lyrical, smooth style.
Yeah, he does. It's very, very smooth.
I think so. Yeah.
And
lyrical, very lyrical.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder if they were influenced by Lester Young.
Very likely. I mean, this is a whole continuum, Steve. This history of sax playing, as indeed with other instruments.
Sure.
But the Lester Youngs of the world would have started off. A lot of these ideas.
Yeah, definitely. I think that sort of spacious approach to sax playing started off with Frankie Trumbo. When you think of some of those early recordings too,
there you are. You see,
there is a lineage, isn't there?
There is.
Now we've got another one. I think you've chosen another one here.
Yes, I have.
So we'll just
track 3, I think.
Yes, it is. Okay, so do you know the name? We'll just check what's this one. Number 3, Two of a Mind. It's called.
Yes. Well, this is not anything that you've heard before. But it's them just improvising.
Sure, that's good. And the one we heard just before was All Things You Are. That's the track we just heard.
Yes, an old Jerome Kern song.
It is.
Yes.
Great stuff. All right, let's have a listen. VK3SL and VK3JR not entertaining you. Well, there we have it. Some dead air and a faulty CD player, and it was all going so well, wasn't it, Frank?
Well, I think we got most of it, Steve.
We got most of it, but yes, we're just sort of lamenting the fact that every CD player in here is it's unfortunately past its use by, and I've tried to tweak the lasers, but it works better at the first part of the CD, but not the rest. Never mind.
Yeah, never mind.
So we're listening to the very smooth sounds of Mr. Desmond and Mr. Mulligan.
Indeed.
And we heard most of Two of Mind. So there, that was good. Well, we'll see what we have next. I think you've got some. You can riff on this for a bit. We've got the Modern Jazz Quartet, Blues on Bach.
Yes, we do.
And these are all on YT if we don't have any success with the CD. But,
all right.
But yeah, so the first one, I think it was track one, wasn't it?
Yes, track one.
Which is Regret. It's called.
Yes.
Okay. So what's that about?
A special hello to Mr. Fleming.
Oh, yes. Yes, Mr. Fleming's listening. I think Mr. Andrew and Mr. Stu and a few others.
Mr. Jamie, I think.
Jamie's listening.
Special hello to you, Jamie, also.
Yes.
But Mr. Fleming came to mind because of being a fellow MJQ lover.
Yeah. That's right.
So,
we've had a few good conversations about MJQ. In fact, you both sort of reinvigorated something with me. I did listen to quite a few of these Bach recordings.
Yes, they're interesting, aren't they?
They are. They're fascinating. How anything that sort of addresses the music of Mr. B, Mr. JSB.
Indeed, and it's so easily addressed. It's so can be addressed in so many ways.
Yeah.
To very good effect.
Absolutely. Right. So we'll have a listen to this Modern Jazz Quartet, and we're getting into the cruisy mode of the evening. I think. Yes. Okay. Here we go. Hopefully it'll work. harpsichord and jazz. I haven't heard that before.
Why not?
Yeah, it's
Why
really
not?
effective. It's a really versatile group, aren't they? You're saying some of them had a classical background.
John Lewis, the leader of the group, certainly did.
Right, he's the pianist.
He did, and they've
And the harpsichordist, I should say.
yes, keyboard man. They've dabbled in a form of music that they called third stream, which was an attempt to kind of straddle the line between jazz and classical. It was controversial, and it doesn't seem to have survived terribly well over the years, but it was certainly worth a try.
Okay.
And it's an example of how dedicated certainly John Lewis was, and taking the rest of the group with him to trying to sort of, I don't know, just bridge the gap between the two genres.
Sure. So they were getting source material from classical works and then adapting them, sort of.
That's up to a point they were, but it also consisted of his writing his own source material
Okay.
as well.
In the style.
In that style, yes.
Fine. Yeah, no, it's really effective. It's interesting with that lecturer we went to the other day. They were talking about the importance of improvisation and breaking down the shackles of elitism in music. And,
Yes.
there's something something wonderfully engaging about improvising within within some sort of structure.
Very much so, and it points out the importance of not getting too hung up on barriers, really, and not necessarily going to a lot of trouble to sort of define whether something is one thing or another thing.
Sure,
I heard Louis Armstrong asked once whether he liked what jazz or whatever. And better than other sorts of music. He said, "There are only two kinds of music: good music and bad music."
Right. Okay. Very good. Yeah. Well, he's certainly, he was a person of profound influence. Yeah. All right. Well, let's have a listen to this other one. This is number 2. We're going to listen to number 2 because I think it's safer with the
Don't give away the trade secret.
No, that's right. We're sort of realising the limitations of the equipment.
This is a blues, I think, isn't it?
It is a blues. It's blues in B flat.
Right.
Let's have it. Modern Jazz Quartet. And this is VK3SL and VK3JR testing, of course. Okay, there we have it. That was the Modern Jazz Quartet. And what do we hear? We heard
Blues in B flat.
Yeah, blues and B flat. That was pretty chill, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it was. They're pretty seasoned group. You can tell that they're effectively reading each other's minds there.
Yeah.
It's just so every bit of space is just seamlessly progresses, doesn't it?
In such a musical way.
It does. It's beautiful. Beautiful music. Modern Jazz Quartet. And that's from the Blues on Bark album. So
somewhere in there is the core of that is some J.S. Bach.
Yeah, I think there is. In fact, earlier on in some of these missions we did play a couple of recordings from that album.
You did.
Yes,
you did.
We
indeed.
were exploring different presentations of Bach's music. We heard some Jacques Lossier, and we heard the Modern Jazz Quartet and some Nina Simone,
yes,
other things.
All terrific.
Yay! So we've got some Bill Evans now. Now you have to self-educate. You have to educate me here because I don't know much about Bill Evans. I should know more.
Well, he is my favourite jazz pianist, and he's also the favourite jazz pianist of Tony Gould, who's a well-known educator around town.
Yes, he's well known in Melbourne.
And Bill Evans started really in the 50s and went through to the 60s. He played with Miles Davis, played with all the greats. And played right through the 70s and 80s. He's got a lovely, soft, delicate style again, I think, with an impressionistic flavour to it. Lovely, warm, gentle harmonies, perfectly executed. And this particular album is called Conversation with Myself, is 3 tracks of Bill Evans being played at the one time, which is to say that he overdubbed twice on an original track. Now, it sounds as though it could be gimmicky, but it is anything but gimmicky. It's wonderful music, and he goes to some length on the record notes and it's a vinyl, so you've got plenty of room to write copious notes to kind of defend himself against this allegation or suspicion that people might have that he's going in for a gimmick. He says that it's just 3 different aspects of him, but each time it's a different aspect.
Wow, that's a very it's interesting, isn't it? So you must be. Yeah, I wonder how he conceives the whole thing.
Yeah, well, perhaps if you can have
we'll have a listen, read. And then I just wonder how it all sort of works.
Yeah, I know.
Look, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I know Heifetz was lampooned for doing the Bach double with himself.
Sure, yeah.
And people said it was a gimmick. And in fact, my cello professor in London actually recorded the Brahms cello concerto along with himself.
Oh, wonderful!
Played the piano and the cello.
Yeah, why shouldn't you do it?
And I think it's not a bad idea. I think if you've got the skills and technology allows for this, and it's all about the concept. It's about the way. So I'm interested to know how Mr. Evans sort of developed his ideas and how he
well, I think the result speaks for itself.
Yeah, I think I'm sure you're right. So we'll have a listen. We'll listen to this now, and this is from his Conversations with Myself album. And what's the first track called?
I'm not sure.
It's called I'm just going to check. It's around about midnight.
Oh, sorry, it's otherwise known as Round Midnight. This was composed by Thelonious Monk.
That's right. I've heard it in relation to Mr. Monk.
Yeah, it's a lovely tune. It's one. Thelonious didn't specialise in writing lovely tunes, but this is one, and it's certainly gone down into the vernacular, and it's got words to it now, and many a singer has sung it.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay, well, this is VK3SL and VK3JR. We're testing on 160 and 2 metres, and we'll now listen to the music of Mr. Bill Evans. Right, there we have it. That was Mr. Evans with in triplicate. He was, Look, I thought it actually worked really well.
I don't think it sounded like a gimmick at all.
No, no. It was really, one part was obviously more transparent, just sort of more skeletal, more sort of architectural.
Yeah.
And then you had the two sort of conversational lines. And we're just sort of speculating on how one can see, because usually when playing a solo, you're sort of just following your instinct. But here he's developed one idea, and then he's improvising another idea, then another idea. Well, there has to be some sort of knowledge of what's coming up, or how he may have done it before in another part, or something to sort of bounce off. But it seems to work really well. It's very transparent.
I think he says that he did. Have it played back to himself once, the whole each track. Okay. So that he wasn't sort of totally hearing it afresh. But
that's right. You need to have some sort of concept of what you're dialoguing with.
Certainly you do.
But look, it's fascinating. Some great harmonies, some really interesting colours in the chords.
I love the colours.
Yeah, they are. They're very they're rich in their layering.
Yet soft and warm, I think.
Very much so, and very understated. It's not sort of...
That's right.
It's not too busy.
No, it's not. And it's not... There's no harshness in it or show-off.
No, not at all.
About it.
No, it's quite introspective playing.
It is.
Yeah, it's good. That's Mr. Evans. Now, I haven't really listened to much Bill Evans.
No.
And so this is good to hear. Now, we had another one lined up, didn't we? Number 4.
Number 4. Now, this is Monk's Blue Monk.
Yeah.
Again, about Thelonious.
Yes.
I don't know whether Thelonious actually wrote this, but it is, inspired by Mr. Monk.
Mr. Monk.
So...
it's good. Well, I think I've got the needle in the right place. Well, let's give it a burl and see how it goes.
See what happens.
Okay, VK3SL, VK3JR. We're testing, of course.
Beautiful, just like a...
Yeah, it's great. Mr. Evans times 3.
Sounding great.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And that's the Blue Monk. Tribute, no doubt, to Thelonious, Mr. T.
Indeed, very much so.
Yeah, Conversations with Myself. And I'll have to listen to the rest of that album. Well, it's all online. It's one of the Verves.
Yes.
And it's good. Yeah, Mr. Evans. Well, we're going to sort of move into something a bit more exotic now, aren't we?
We are. This is our Asian spot.
Yes.
Not this week from Japan, as often is the case.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've in the past, of course, we've had lots of historic Japanese music.
And very good too.
Yeah, we've had our Cuban segments, and we've
Yes.
had Hungarian gypsy music, Romanian music.
We have.
Romanian pan flute a few weeks ago, and some violin. as
Travelled
well.
far and wide.
Yeah, but we're going to Indonesia, and this is a really interesting stop, and it feeds into what the lecture we heard the other day. We heard Mr. Neil McLaughlin gave a fantastic lecture, which Frank and I attended, and it had so much dimension to it, and a lot of it was about our perceptions of music and how the ear is very quick to be re-educated in different styles, and one of the examples he gave was Javanese gamelan music.
It was.
So we'll have a listen to this. This is off one of your LPs, Frank.
It is.
So, do you remember when you got this?
40 years ago.
Really?
I think so.
Okay, well, let's immerse ourselves. Well, that's so evocative, Frank.
It is. It's lovely.
It's amazing. I love the way those gamelan gongs beat against each other.
Yes, you can hear that sort of vibration almost.
Yeah, there is.
It's you would think of it as a detuning in a way.
Yeah, that's right.
It's quite deliberate.
It is. It's a part of the mystique or it's a part of the sound world it creates is to
Totally.
have that dissonance, and as you say, strong pentatonic flavour to it as well. I'm going to have to listen to a lot more gamelan music.
Likewise. I used to hear it on Radio Indonesia when I was a kid.
Really fantastic!
Yeah.
Oh golly, that would with all the selective fading,
Yes,
would add another dimension to
added
it.
to it as well. That's right.
Oh wowsies! I wonder. That's a pity they don't. You don't hear it in mainstream media very much.
No. Well, Radio Indonesia's still going, but they don't seem to play much gamelan these days.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It is.
It's really. I'm going to put some in the background when we're. Here we go. There's some there.
Yeah.
But no, like I just think the way that. There's just this fascinating, I don't know, interplay, and it's mesmerising. It sort of has that hypnotic dimension to it.
You can't not listen, can you?
No, I've always enjoyed sort of ethnic music, but I haven't listened to. I did hear a gamelan orchestra at one of the schools I teach at. They brought one in,
yes,
and with all their stylised dancing, and it was quite an experience because they actually use a very wide space, and but there's a sort of I'll just turn it down a bit. There's a sort of stopping and starting motion,
yes,
and then they'll be poised in one position, like frozen,
yes,
in some sort of gesture, frozen, and so the dancing itself is quite beautiful.
It must be symbolic, a lot of it.
I think it must be, yeah.
I think it is. I think it's to do with some of it is to do with their religion.
Yeah.
Which is animism, I think.
Is that what it is?
I think
sure.
I think so.
Well, I'll definitely have to have more programs of Javanese or Balinese gamelan music. I know Debussy was very inspired by it.
Yes, he was. It
was quite popular.
And there have been other Western composers. I'm just trying to think. There was somebody whose name escapes me, but
it's okay.
Not a terribly well known man, but he was very taken with it, and he wrote, or he tried to write music more or less in that general genre without actually copying it.
Okay.
He tried to write Western music with that sort of Harrison, I think his name was.
Oh, okay, right.
And he tried to sort of inject into what's basically Western music, this flavour of the exotic, you know.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Well, it's effective, and it's captivated me. I think we'll have to have more of this in the missions, more ethnomusicological influence. I think.
Well, there's lots and lots of countries to cover.
There is, absolutely, there is. So that's inspiration. Well, look, while we're on this subject, we'll have something from India, I think.
Yes, a little bit of Ravi Shankar.
Great.
Going back to the hippie movement of the 60s. Not that he was a hippie, but George Harrison of the Beatles was very taken with him and Indian music generally, and he became a bit of a cult figure among some hippies, and who listened to Indian music and took it to heart, and played quite a lot of it. And George, in fact, in some of the Beatles recordings, has written music along these lines, and has had Indian musicians help him perform it, and became very much an Indophile.
Sure. Ravi Shankar was huge, wasn't he?
He was absolutely huge. And now his daughter is also huge.
Sure. She's a sort of more pop, more fusion.
So she is.
Yeah,
so she is, yes.
She might be. Yeah. Okay. And the... I'll fade in a little bit while we're chatting.
Yeah, sure.
Because music is sort of endless loops.
It is.
And
again, now this is uses the concept of the raga, which is really an Indian name for a scale. It's a given set of notes from one octave to covering an octave, within which the player must improvise sometimes, and I think there's also written down music.
There's a lot of microtones.
A lot of microtones, yes.
This is the thing. When you subdivide, this is another thing I talked about the other night, how different, phenomenally different ways of experiencing, presenting music, and how it categorically excites the brain in the same way. We all have, it sort of validitizes.
Totally
such
does.
A word. But which I think is wonderful. And I think anyone with an open mind can get something out of listening to non-conventional styles. But
sometimes it takes a bit of extra. You have to work at it a bit, and you've got to perhaps be prepared to listen to something more than once.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah, it's effective. So is this Mr. Shankar?
Yes.
It is. Okay. Because I know Yehudi Menuhin had a strong connection with him.
So he did, yes. They did albums together.
I went and heard him. I went and heard Ravi Shankar and Menuhin in London years ago.
I heard Ravi here.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Went to the Albert Hall.
Yeah, wonderful.
It was an impressionable experience. They sit cross-legged on the stage.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And play. It's marvellous. Right, well, let's have a little listen. We'll immerse ourselves into this Indian sound.
Fine.
think I'm feeling quite transported by that. That's a Indian, your Indian music with Ravi Shankar and company. Now, you mentioned the thumb pianos.
The finger drumming.
Finger drumming, sorry. Why am I saying thumb piano? That's African music.
That's right.
That's getting mixed up.
That sounds pretty good.
Which
too.
sounds good, yes.
Yes, the finger drumming, it's very, very skillful. They're consummate musicians, these fellas.
Yeah, they are.
They are, absolutely. And, it's... I think this was one of the points that Mr. McLaughlin was making the other night, that, it's easy for us Westerners to think that we do it all and we've got all the talent, and that our music's the only one that sort of really cuts it, whereas stuff like this in its own right is just as skillful and just as musical.
I totally agree. It is. It's just a question of immersion, and we're lucky that we have so many wonderfully diverse ethnic music around. And so what are the other instruments? We've got the
there's the tambura.
Tambura, is that the
are the stringed instrument.
Okay. Yeah.
And the tabla, that's the drum, and Ravi playing the sitar.
The sitar,
yes.
Yeah, with its sympathetic resonant strings.
Very much to the fore, aren't they?
Yeah, they have. I think there are. Yeah, it's great.
Very much.
Yeah, is he still around? Is he still alive?
Don't think so. I wouldn't be sure. I think he may have.
Yeah. But he was
gone to Nirvana.
Yes, absolutely. I think he might be in Nirvana here while he's playing.
Well, I think he might be. Certainly, a lot of the people who used to listen to him were.
Yes, I think they're in Nirvana for a multitude of reasons.
I think so too. Self-induced.
Yes, I think so. All right. Well, we'll have to sadly have to fade because I could just let this keep going, but we do have other things.
We've got a crowded playlist.
We do. We're running out of time. Let's let this slowly disappear into the ether.
Yes.
And we'll definitely come back to it.
Very good.
Now, what's next? We've got... Oh, yes. We were talking about Mr. Per Galazi because we heard the Stab at Martyr last week.
Yes, and it reminded me that he has written another similar work called the Salve Regina, which means Queen means Hail Queen. Hail Queen goes on to Hail Queen of Heaven. It's about Mary. It's a Catholic phenomenon.
Yeah.
And this piece is very much in the same mould as the Stabat Mater, and but quite different in the sense that it's not the same music rehashed by any means. It's original, but it has that very much that same flavour of poignancy and sadness, and a lovely just musicality.
Yeah, it sounds... Look, I'm looking forward to listening to this. I didn't know anything about this work at all, and yeah, if it's anything like the Stabat Mater, it'll be glorious.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we don't have any technical hitches with this, well, hopefully it'll be all right.
See how we go.
We'll see how we go. All right, this is VK3SL and VK3JR. We're testing, of course, on 160 and 2 metres. And there's a stream going, not that many people on the stream, but so it's there as a entertainment medium. But the rest of it, of course, is all about test transmissions. We all know that. Okay, well, let's have a listen to the music of Giovanni Battista Per Galazi.
Yes.
Right. Well, we had to fade it there. It was so beautiful, and it was hard to make that decision. But, wow, I didn't even know that work at all. This is the Sal Regina by Pergolesi. Yeah. So he died at 26, Mr. P.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sad but true.
Yeah, and
From TB, I think.
I think that's right. And he wrote, well, it's a sort of, I think we talked about this last time, but yeah, there's a lot of music was attributed to Pergolesi because everyone wanted to jump on his bandwagon. Yeah. And of course, it soon was apparent that people were using his name to attach their own works.
That's right. But, there's no doubt about the authenticity of that one, though, is there?
No, absolutely not. It's in fact very, very similar. The first movement's quite strikingly similar to the Stabat Mater. But yeah,
I understand it was written before Stabat Mater.
Okay, well, Stabat Mater is similar to this. Yes. Now we had Cecilia Bartley, who's a mezzo who I have great affection for,
yes,
and
same.
June Anderson on soprano too. Beautiful,
lovely.
She sang beautifully, didn't she?
They both did. Yes,
they did. That was great. Well, what's next? I think we've got something else lined up. Oh, look. Well, again, we're going to have to sort of fade things a bit to get our playlist in. We'll have to just play a segment of the Bach B minor Mass. The
Bach B
Kyrie.
minor Mass. It's track 1. It's the beginning of the Mass. It's how it starts. It's superb. It's performed by the Bach Munich Orchestra, I think, conducted by Karl Richter. Late 60s performance.
Yeah.
And I think it's superb.
Yeah, this is music for all time. This is, I think, possibly one of the greatest. Well, I say this all the time. I'm always waxing lyrical, but it really is. This is really special.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Okay, that was supposed to happen then. I'll try it again. Retake. I don't want to have to fade, but unfortunately, we have to be aware of the playlist. That's music of all time, all ages, really.
It certainly is. It really doesn't get much better in the Western canon, I think.
I don't think so. It's just so expansive. And Bach's music has this ability to sort of just sound, has that sort of totality. Timeless, universal, all-encompassing, all those wonderful metaphors that suggest totality or something. I don't know. Yeah. It's magnificent. So, that was the Kyrie, or part of the Kyrie for the Bach's Mass in B minor. Thoroughly commend that, and we might come back to that. I think I'll have to come back to it another time on other missions. But that's the classic recording of Carl Richter in 1969. Yeah, thank you for suggesting that. That's music that really has a strong resonance. It's wonderful.
Certainly does.
Yeah, now you've got Lynn Dawson down.
Yes.
Now, I don't know anything about Lynn Dawson.
She's British, 70s, I think, 80s. Not too much to say, but she's is highly regarded.
Sure.
Straight down the line, British sort of performer, really.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's not said by way of criticism.
Sure.
But she is.
Yeah, very good. Well, look, we've got her singing I Know My Redeemer Liveth from the Messiah.
My favourite aria from Messiah.
That's wonderful. And I think I mentioned last week that I had the experience at the British Museum years ago of going and having a look in there. They had a manuscript exhibition.
Yes.
And in a glass case there was Handel's manuscript of this work.
How good's that, eh?
And beautifully, and all of the corrections and adjustments, and it was in red ink and black ink, and it was just extraordinary to see this document.
So good to have
the score of this piece.
Yeah.
But it is, again, it's timeless music. We're listening to Lynn Dawson and singing the music of Handel. This is VK3SL and VK3JR. We're testing on 160 and 2 metres.
Indeed.
That was beautiful.
It was.
Really great. Lynn Dawson singing the music of Handel from The Messiah.
Good voice.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's great. I'd never heard her sing before.
No.
That was terrific. So thank you for suggesting that. And I'm pleased to have played that work. It's just again,
Superb.
timeless music
Yes.
of all times.
Indeed.
Yay. All right. Well, we're sort of getting to the penultimate point now.
Yes.
So what we'll have is a historic recording of Marian Anderson.
Oh, yes.
And he was despised also from the Messiah.
Correct.
And this is a recording. It's an unpublished. It says a rare and unpublished recording from 1930s sometime.
Oh, is that right?
I haven't got the full details in front of me.
No.
But so we'll hear Marian Anderson. She's got a wonderful dark quality to her tone.
She is up there with Kathleen Ferrier as far as I'm concerned in terms of contraltos.
Yeah.
She had a most interesting life. I won't go long because we're out of time, but she lived to be 96.
Wow.
She had enormous trouble on account of being black, enormous trouble, and in her early days, but later on overcame that. But for anyone who's interested in such things, I commend the Wikipedia entry about her. Makes very interesting reading.
Great, thank you for that, Marian Anderson. All right, let's have a listen to this recording of her, and he was despised from the Messiah as well. Yep.
Despised
Well, that was wonderful. Yeah, we heard Marian Anderson.
Another one of the introductions that I owe to my primary school music appreciation teacher. He loved Marian Anderson and used to play her frequently to us.
Okay.
Back in the 50s.
Fantastic. Great formative experience. I mean, they're lasting, aren't they, those impressions?
Oh, totally, yeah.
And something about the sound of a contralto, that's the dark.
I love that. I love that richness.
There is a
depth.
richness. It's got a wonderful intrinsic beauty about it. It's amazing. It's fabulous. And, yeah, I mean, and the way she sang that was so poised and so reflective.
So totally.
Yeah.
She was right in it. And so, to me, so much richer than a countertenor. Not that they don't show great skill and ability, but, but haven't got the warmth.
I'm on the same page there, Frank. Yeah, but there's something about a contralto.
I think so.
Well, I think there's no more fitting way to finish our missions tonight.
No.
With a performance of probably the greatest contralto, maybe.
My favourite, anyway.
Yes. And I certainly agree. This is Kathleen Ferrier. And look, we'll say at this point, we'll thank the listeners. And it's been, look, and I want to thank you, Frank, for coming in. It's been great to have you here.
I want to thank you for having me, Steve. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been
very self-indulgent, but very enjoyable.
Well, what a better way to do it. It's just great to actually do this in person together. And, and you will have to do it again sooner than later.
I will look forward.
That's great. Well, so we'll ride out with this one, and then I'll listen back just briefly on D in case there's.
This is from the Mass, I think, is it?
Yes.
Yes, it's the Bach B minor.
Yeah, it is.
This is the best. I've heard a good number of renditions of this because my wife and I are both B minor Mass tragics. So I have heard quite a number, and this to me is the best version of this particular aria that I know of.
Thanks, Frank.